Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive! I continue my discussion in this video on the worlds of Kult, Divinity Lost, and the Underworld. Here we deal with the fact that the Underworld is not what most RPGs, most mythologies are referencing when they talk about this. Most of them depict it as the realm of the dead. However, the Underworld is not. It is the Underworld. It is the sewers, the caverns, the spiraling depths of the earth, going down eventually into the darkness of nothingness, to the dissolution of everything in the Atlas. And this is what we talk about. It connects to Metropolis, Inferno, and even to our own Elysium. And with this, we will begin our discussion. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about Kult Divinity Lost and the Underworld. The first level of the Underworld is not actually part of the Underworld, though it connects to it. And that is the subways, the storm drains. These things made by man that are just on the surface, or just below our real surface. Because for the Underworld, these are considered the surface. These are the places that aren't part of, but are adjacent to. And when you go below these, you end up in the first level of the Underworld. An area where you can hear the subway run above you. Where you can hear the water run through the storm drains. Where you can hear the sounds of the sewers. And these are areas that are more accessible to people. Things come up, but not much, not often, into this area. For there is just enough light here. This is a realm of dusk. There are the fires in oil drums. There are areas where there's a single naked light bulb hanging from the ceiling, shedding light, and people live here. The cast-offs of society. Homeless, lost people. And some of them can guide you. Oh no, they can't guide you down into the depths. But they can guide you to where the depths start. They can take you to where the doors that should not be opened are. Where the stairwells or ladders into places that they don't go to can be found. They won't go with you into these areas, but they'll show you where they are. And then, when you follow these paths, follow these entrances, you go down into the second level of the Underworld, the depths. Once you're in the depths, you're in a realm of narrow, twisting, labyrinthine passages that descend down into complete darkness. You might find neglected electrical panels in the walls. You might hear the sound of the drip of water echoing in the deeper darkness. You might feel a cold wind blowing up from the depths and out into the upper levels. But that's the very the very low level stuff. For the depths is also the hunting ground of creatures from further below. Zealoths hunt for their masters to bring them people to eat. Karas dwell within the sewers. And of course, there are cultists. People who worship the things deeper into the underworld. And they come to this level, this area where they can reach out and touch the power of the deeper levels while still being safe, closest to the surface. And then below this level, you find your way into the Borderland, the third level of the Underworld. The Borderlands is the area that connects into the underworlds of Metropolis, Elysium, and Inferno. And entities can come through this into any of the other three. From any of the other three. And the Archons don't want this. So they have put entities here that serve the purpose of guarding this. And there are entities that will come up from below to help people bypass these guardians and find their way deeper. But these entities try to grab, flay anything that comes down here, turning any creatures that come down, either down or up into the Borderland, and turn them into its own hunters to bring these things to them. And then you go further, you go deeper. You reach the fourth level of the labyrinth, an area where you no longer see any of these signs of humanity. Our mechanical constructions have finally given way to natural stone and twisting passages, stalagmites and stalactites growing like forests through this land. And as you go deeper, as you reach the end of the labyrinth, there is this portal made out of blackened coral, dried sea salt, and if you put your blood on this portal, it will open and it will let you in. And passing through this portal takes you to the fifth level of the labyrinth, the city of Kotonor, the city of the lost, the city of the forgotten. For you see, when humanity ruled Metropolis as gods, we cast those defeated out. And they settled in this city. And this city is why, at the Borderland, the Archons have put guards and sentinels. Because this city is where those we have vanquished, those who have every reason to hate humanity, live. And many do remember what humanity was. But at the same time, they have a recognition that humanity has had done to it something similar that was done to them. And from here, you have this city. And this city, like the city of Inferno, is a vast city. But the population dwell closest to the center of it, to the safer regions, because as you go out, the friction between this city that is anchored through various means into existence and the nothingness surrounding it makes places dangerous. And the people in this city, the peoples of the city, the children of the underworld, live in this main central area. And they have issues. You see, they are either sterile or have such issues due to millennia of inbreeding that they do not produce viable children. And one group, the bioorganic keepers, control an area called the birth chambers. And this area, they bring people, humans mostly, to be fresh genetic material. And they manipulate human genetic stock to make it work with the genetics of the other entities. And they make sure that there are healthy children born so that these can continue. For otherwise, all these different groups would fade into nothing as they stop having children, stop having new members of their races born. And there is friction with the biomechanical keepers and some groups, because there are some groups that go, why should these entities be the only ones who have access to the birth chambers? Be the only ones who decide when children are born, to what group, what species. And in this area, there is a small human population. Either people who come and go, helping the entities, helping the children of the underworld, or beings who are brought down as slaves. And many of these slaves will end up in the birth chamber. But continuing down, continuing past the lowest level of Kotonor, you find yourself in the Fallen Realms. The Fallen Realms are a great archive, a place to preserve history, where you will find the moldering remains of 1,000 cultures, of 1,000 civilizations that predated humanity. And in the right places, you will find mechanical devices that could access the power of the stars, or moldered away clothing, or ancient slabs written in languages dead to us. And from there, you go deeper. You pass down into the deepest level of the abyss, of the underworld, into the Temple of the Blind. In the Temple of the Blind, the very laws of physics themselves twist and bend. No light can exist here. You cannot bring light in. You cannot start a source of light in here. And in this temple, you could be walking on the ceiling. Up, down, have no meaning here. And once you've passed through, go deeper into this temple, you find yourself in an inner labyrinth. The inner labyrinth is the final labyrinth, the end of everything. As you go into this, nothing has meaning, and the only sound is the sound of things being shredded into nothing. And if you find your way through this, you never come back. But if you find your way through this, you find yourself in the presence of she who waits below. And this is the entity that many entities above worship. She does not serve the Demiurge or Astaroth. She is considered beyond them, older than them. For she is the primordial being of nothingness. It is said that she is the daughter of the Atlas, and she is there. No one can really report exactly what she looks like, for none who see her ever come back. All she is the finality of everything. And then finally, beyond she who waits below, beyond everything else of the underworld, is the Atlas. A spiraling black hole. It pulls even souls in. And a final surge, and then nothing. For the Atlas is the end of all things. The end of physics, the end of spirit, the end of flesh. It is the Atlas, and there is no other way to describe it. It just ends. For the underworld, this is the culmination of the darkness, the culmination of the deep, abiding, dreadful sense of nothingness that one has been building up as one goes deeper. It is the embodiment of annihilation. The denizens of the underworld can be divided into two groups: the creatures of the underworld and the children of the underworld. The creatures, we start with the most basic of them, the Karath. The Karath is a entity. It doesn't so much consume people as it absorbs them. It will coat itself over a person, graft them into itself, and you will hear for weeks that person screaming as their body is broken down and pulled into this entity, grafted into its form, and it will then work over another person, such that a Kareth can look like a shambling mound of screaming, moving people. Their bits, their arms, legs, bodies just visible in its shape, twisting as it moves. And when one grows larger, grows strong enough, it becomes one of the Archon's guardians in the Borderland. The Grand Sagthir. And these are a Kareth writ large. These are, in fact, so large they cannot move. They cannot hunt themselves. And so, as they've flayed the skin, dissolved the skin off people, they will extrude them into the Zealoths. Zealoths are skinless, flayed humans with their fingernails grown into claws, with fungus on their skin and flesh and mouths. This fungus is poisonous to the children of the Underworld. But beyond that, the Zealoths hunt for people, hunt for creatures, and bring them to their Grand Sagthir masters, so that these entities can continue to eat, continue to grow, continue to produce more Zealoths, to bring them more people, so they can continue to grow in an endless, vicious cycle. Of course, other entities here are the larvae. These are the worms that the Death Angels in Inferno will shove into the chests of the Razids. And these are pack hunters. They scream and eat and devour. Of course, there are the phantoms, the people who it's a shred, a fragment of something that had been consumed into nothingness in the deepest levels of the underworld. And they move through reality, through people, because they have no physical form. Because they are a shred, an echo of something that once was. Now, when you talk about the children of the underworld, this is where things get special. For you see, the children of the underworld are from those entities we had once enslaved or had once vanquished. The Azadive are the same people, the same species that we turned into the Azghouls in Metropolis. But these are them before they were enslaved. They are fair beings. And they see the truth. They see through illusions, through deception, see the true nature of the soul. The Famaria are the group that sees themselves as the rebellion against the biomechanical keepers. They are the ones who seek nothing more than to put themselves in charge of the birthing chambers. They wear great robes that are carried by others behind them because they are so heavy. Then you have fat and bloated, the Baron, the advisors to the biomechanical keepers, who enjoy a privileged status for the aid that they provide. And then you have the Zatars. This group once had wings, but they cut them off. They keep great stores of weapons in their own coffins. And they worship she who waits below. And because of this, they guide people through the upper levels, past the guards, past the Archon servants in the Borderlands, so that they can come down into the city, into this great city of the Underworld, to find their way eventually to Nothingness with she who waits below. And this will end my discussion on the Underworld. This is a region of nothingness, of darkness. This themology, this symbology, carries its way all the way through. At all levels, you are working towards a dissolution of everything you are. So, if you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe down below. The little bell icon will tell you about notifications to updates to my channel. I still have my regularly scheduled video for this week. And of course, next week I will be talking about the primal wild of Gaia. So, until then, I just want you all to please remember to have fun and keep gaming.